We are breaking records of inflation in this country. 6.8% inflation record came from Stats Canada this morning compared to last year, and it has beaten the mainstream economists' expectation, which was 6.7%. So the two things which came out as prominent, number one is food and number two is shelter. What's going to happen next? And what do you expect from Bank of Canada going forward to tame this inflation? So in this video, we're going to talk about that. So without further ado, let's dive in. So Stats Canada published the latest CPI figures this morning. 6.8% inflation compared to April last year, which means the price of goods and services has gone up 6.8% compared to last year. Now, if you know how the CPI is calculated, it's very much manipulated. It's one of the most manipulated figures in the government's statistics. So what they do is they collect a bucket of goods and services and they track the price change of those goods and services year over year. And that's how the CPI index came out. And if you look at 6.8 and you look under the hood, there are two things which were very prominent. Number one was food, 8.8% year over year, and the shelter came out 7.4%. Now, let's break it down. So 8.8% food inflation, which means if you have purchased a food item last year, its price has gone up 8.8%. I think this is bogus. This is not realistic. Because from my own personal experience, my grocery bill has gone up significantly compared to last year, right? And I give you one example, a loaf of Wonder Bread. I think pretty much everybody purchases bread for breakfast, for sandwiches, for school lunches or whatever. Price of a loaf of bread used to be around $2.50, $2.60, $2.70, depending upon where you purchase. So I'm referencing Metro, where my wife used to buy from. The price of loaf has gone up to $4.50, from $2.50, $2.60, $2.70 to $4.50. That is more than 40% price increase compared to last year. So when Stats Canada report 8.8% food inflation, that's not realistic, okay? And the way they measure and compare those bucket of foods and services, they also replace an item that has gone up significantly with an item that is equally comparable from a nutrition perspective, but the pricing might have not gone up with the same fraction. So that's how they replace those items in the bucket of foods and services. So for example, if the cost of steak has gone up 30-40%, they will replace the steak from that bucket of goods and services with something like a canned food which has similar nutritions, but the price of canned food has not gone up, for example. So I'm giving you some examples, right? So that's how these government agencies manipulate the data to make it look like it is still under control, but in reality the inflation has gone up significantly. Okay, you very well, when you purchase groceries, when you purchase meat, poultry, bread, wheat, how much are you spending more than what you used to pay last year. Now on the shelter piece, first of all, the way they calculate shelter cost is not about the house prices. They calculate the rent and they calculate the mortgage payments, right? So the mortgage payments are just about to go up, based upon the rising rates. So last year, the rates were completely at the bottom. So the mortgage rates were quite low. So the payments might have not gone up. The rents have gone up significantly. Last night, I was looking for a rental property for my client in Milton area. And I can tell you, I cannot find a single freehold property less than $2,600 a month. So a 2-bedroom stacked townhouse starting from $2,600 a month in Milton, let alone the downtown rental area. That might have been very different. So I can tell you the rents as per the Toronto Real Estate Board statistics has gone up 15% easily compared to last year. But yet Stats Canada is telling you the shelter cost has only gone up 7.4%, if you believe on it. So what I'm telling you guys here, that even though the government published number has broken record for the last 30 years, it is still heavily underreported. If you talk to somebody on the street or you analyze your own expenses, you will realize how much more you're spending compared to last year. Now, understand one thing. So this CPI is one of the key indicators used to make decisions like, setting minimum wage for the labor workforce, setting the rent benefits, the other subsidies that the government, sent out. All of those decisions are based upon the CPI output. Bank of Canada is going to make decisions based upon the CPI. Imagine if Stats Canada start publishing the more realistic CPI numbers. What would happen with the interest rate? What would happen with the minimum wage? What would happen with the rent benefits and other welfare benefits? All of those decisions are heavily depending upon the CPI input. If the CPI is not accurate, it's bogus, then you can see the decisions taken by Bank of Canada, from other government agencies to set minimum wage, health benefits, or other types of benefits are not reflecting the reality. So what's going to happen? I think the Bank of Canada will definitely increase the interest rate by another 50 basis point, 0.5%, and they will continue to do so until they control the inflation. But here's the challenge. The inflation today we see is very much focused on the structural reasons, which means the supply chain, the global supply chain that we collectively disrupted by enforcing lockdown has distorted the overall process. So the price increase are mainly because of lockdowns, because of lack of supply, lack of workforce. That will not be sorted by raising interest rates. So even though Bank of Canada is going to raise interest rates to bring the inflation down, they can somehow kill the demand in the economy for spending, but they cannot fix the global supply chain disruption. So my fear is we will end up into a stagflation scenario where we are still raising interest rate with hopes that it will pull down the inflation, but the inflation may not come down because it has structural reasons of supply chain disruptions, right? So we will end up in a stagflation scenario where inflation is high, low or no economic growth, and the interest rate is also high as well. Hence we call it stagflation. So because the inflation is high, but the economic output is also stagnant. So that's the fear that I'm having by looking at these policies decisions. I'm sure they are also looking into these statistics as well, but maybe their motives behind those decisions are different. Let me know what you think. Put your comments down below. If you like it, give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.